The James Show Podcast.
And if you're someone who claims to be a limited government person, whether a limited government conservative or a libertarian or a constitutionalist or whatever flavor of limited government, it has to chap your backside a little bit that 800 new laws just got instituted in the state of Texas. 800 went into effect yesterday. Who the hell can keep up with 800 laws? You can't. I can't. Nobody can. And we have to do this every year. We have to do this for the state level. We have to do this for the federal level. We have to do this for the county level. We have to do this for the municipal/city level. No way. This is not an ethical way to run a society. There's no way one human being can know all of these rules. So it is unethical to hold them accountable for all these rules. Why doesn't everyone see just the blanket, naked, unethical nature of 800 new laws? Or just having 800 laws, period, is kind of pushing it. You understand that? Like, every time a new law is passed, government gets a little bit bigger. Your domain gets a little bit smaller. Your domain just got a little bit smaller by these 800 new laws that you now have to live by. Now, some of them, you know, you're never going to run afoul of these, like SB2, the new educational savings account program. Yeah, that doesn't have any negative effect. But if you're going to take advantage of that, if this is such a good idea that we have to pass it into law, how many people out your window right now have any idea that's a new thing that started yesterday? Out of 100, how many of you think could say, yeah, new education savings account just went into effect yesterday, new program. It's for the people in the state of Texas to, I don't know, save for education, I imagine. I don't know. I didn't really look into it. $1 billion in funding for the 26-27 school year was also in that, the Center Square reported. Another one is $8.5 billion in new funding for public education and $4 billion for teacher and staff pay raises. So there it is, $12.5 billion. So these laws didn't restrict your freedom and your ability to, you know, go fishing on Saturday or, you know, to mow your backyard or do all these other normal things. But $12.5 billion are going to be sucked out of the taxpayers of Texas for this bill that just passed. This is one of the 800. So you have a diminished freedom when it comes to your money. More money is going to be taken from you. Great. Fantastic. Another one, SB 12, the Parents' Bill of Rights. It's got a bunch of provisions, but the big one that you might want to know about is sex education is now not an opt-out. It's an opt-in. Biological sex in sports, that might be one that most people do know about. But what about the other 799? See, the problem I have with this is, like, this happens, luckily in Texas, only every 2 years. But in most states, this happens every year. A bunch of people get together, they pass hundreds of new laws, and they just barf them out. And now the law book is 800 laws bigger than it was 2 years ago. So what, do we do this again in 2 years? How many laws have we stacked up? Isn't there some sort of maximum amount of laws that you can pass, and then after that, it's not really helping anymore? Or can government just grow infinitely big with no negative consequences? You know, I think we should be seeing our state legislatures here in Texas, but every state, and this goes for D.C. too, the federal legislatures, they should be going to their Congress, House or Senate or whatever, and repealing just as many laws as they passed. Isn't that strange that all of these laws that got passed, 800 laws that got passed, how many of these are going to be repealed? Even if they fail, are they going to be repealed? How many laws of the 800 laws that were passed in the previous session, and the previous session, and the previous session, and the previous session? You know, if you just go back 20 years, that's been 10 sessions, right? So 8,000 laws. None of them deserve to be repealed. All of them are raging successes. Not believable. Let's go back to, like, when you were born. How old are you? 40, 50, 60. So do the math here. We've had 30 sessions with 800 bills passing each one of these. So what is that? 32,000 laws? 32,000 laws, and none of them got repealed this session. They're all aces. Not believable. We are human beings, incredibly flawed. And the idea that every law we pass, well, we shouldn't have to go revisit that. And even my limited government neighbors, the listeners of WBAP, I don't hear you pining for a government commission to start repealing all these laws. We thought we were going to get some of that with Doge, and some stuff did get repealed, but it still seems like government's growing more than it's being cut at all levels. And even here in Texas, we do this. Even here in Texas, we just stand by and get 800 new laws thrown at us, and we just take it. How much of their money did they have to spend? How high do your taxes have to get? How restricted does your freedom have to be? Now, I understand why most people are okay with this. It's all you've ever known. You've never even fancied the idea of a Congress getting together and said, hey, instead of passing bills, we're just going to spend some time repealing bills. And you may think, well, that's not because the lobbyists want any of these bills repealed. I bet you they want some of them repealed. How come the lobbyists aren't on this? But there is something inherently wrong, inherently unethical. And the founding fathers, I believe, would agree with me that we can't have our representatives go crank out 800 new laws in a session, barf them all out on the American public, or at least the Texas public, and not be repealing a similar amount. You can't just do that every year over and over and over since, 1836? Or, I don't know, you want to count 1845? You want to count the Reconstruction Constitution? What do you want? So for over 100 years, for your entire life, they just go past hundreds of new laws, and almost none of them get repealed. There is something absolutely not right about that. We were talking about one of the trending topics over the weekend, and really for the last week or so, has been Donald Trump's health. And there's been this online movement to try where people are taking still shots from videos, and they're like, you see his ankles, you add that plus the spot on his hand, you see the color changing in his hair, you see the color changing in his skin, or his breathing, or his stance, or his posture, or something. And they're trying to piece together some, I don't know, Trump health panic. And it's just fear porn for people who hate Trump. But is there any truth to it? Well, let's ask someone who knows a little bit more than me. Dr. Matt Chalmers coming back on the James Show. Welcome back, Dr. Matt. Good to have you back on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, first, so let's start with the legit Trump health concerns. Chronic venous insufficiency, something that was announced at the beginning of the summer, if I remember correctly. Is that something of concern, or is that just normal pooling of blood in the extremities and has no effect on the guy?
No, it has significant effect. That is a problem, and it's not one of those things that's super difficult to fix. So if you just get up and move around a little bit more, that'll help out. There's a whole variety of things that you can actually do for that to help kind of offset it. But it is problematic because it will end up putting more pressure on the kidneys, and then it ends up leading to pressure on the heart.
Ooh, okay. So, and that just comes from the little one-way valves in the veins kind of getting loose. Is that, do I have that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the valves are supposed to, every time that you move, they open up and allow fluid to flow up, and then they flat back together closed, and they don't let fluid flow back down. So if those valves become weakened for some reason, then what ends up happening is that they'll kind of cave in, and fluid flows back down and pools in the feet and ankles.
Now, what problems arise from this condition?
So when we start seeing decreased, fluid flow, we're going to end up with you're going to see issues with the feet, ankles. You're going to see stuff. It's going to feel kind of like gout. But the biggest issue is that if we don't have the return fluid, what ends up happening is you start having pressure on the kidneys almost immediately, because your kidneys are trying to filter everything through. And then we'll end up seeing things, like I said, back up into the heart later on. And so what ends up happening is that as the kidneys start getting pressure on them, the kidneys regulate blood pressure and all sorts of things. And so that's where we start seeing this drift back up towards the heart.
All right, Dr. Chalmers, some people use the next point of evidence as the splotches on his hand, and he has had some bruising, and he's aware of it because he tried to cover some of it with makeup at the beginning of last week, and people are like, yeah, he knows it's a problem. He's trying to hide his health problems. But, I mean, a splotch on the back of the hand, what could that possibly be, Dr. Chalmers?
Well, that could be a number of different things. What they're saying is that he shakes so many hands that it's starting to bruise his hand up, which is possible if you're on blood thinners, which could also be one of the reasons that he has the venous insufficiency. So it kind of goes back and forth. So the blood thinners could easily be causing him to bruise. They said he was on aspirin, so they're already talking about that he's on a blood thinner. I don't know if it would just be aspirin. Like, I don't want to start any rumors or anything. I don't think that's what it is, though.
Well, what about they say he has some curious, concerning changes in his hair color and skin color?
Again, that's the hair color and the skin color thing could be completely unrelated. But if he's having a systemic, so all over the body problem right now, then you're going to start seeing a little bit of color change in the face as it puts more pressure again on the kidneys and in the circulatory system. So you will start to see a little bit of change in skin tone.
So there was accusations of deep vein thrombosis. I have heard of deep vein thrombosis, but I'm not going to pretend like I know what that means. What is that?
It's where a little bit of a clot forms in your lower extremity, like your lower leg. And then as you start moving, that clot starts moving and it comes up and it can create heart attacks. It can create lung issues. It can create strokes. It can create all sorts of things. So DVTs are pretty dangerous. DVTs are, there's an increased risk of DVT with venous insufficiency.
I hear you. All right, we're talking with Dr. Chalmers and about Donald Trump's health issues. If you did have to say that you're concerned about some aspect of his health, well, what comes to mind?
So I've listened to him speak, and I don't think there's any issues with cognitive function. I've watched him move, and so like when you watch somebody move, you get a lot of stuff about Parkinson's dementia and stuff like that. So cognitively, I think he's fine. I think that it is an actual blood vessel issue. If we have to go into what I think that the most interesting piece would be is if he was to have gotten the COVID vaccine back when he was telling everybody to get it, then that could easily be why he now is on blood thinners and why this whole thing is spun out. However,
because the blood viscosity issues from the shot.
Yes. So that would be one of the things that I would be most worried about. If someone said, "Hey, he's going to come see you," the first thing I would ask him is, when were your COVID shots and when did we start seeing this vascular insufficiency issue?
See, now I'm so glad I talked to you because none of them brought that up. You're right. Hey, if he is having some of these issues, maybe some of it's tied to the vaccine that you people love so much. And it'd be hard to, criticize him for taking his own vaccine. It just, no one's brought that up until you just said it, Matt Chalmers.
Well, did you see the tweet that he said about finding out what's really going on and how many people have been damaged by the COVID vaccine?
No, I didn't
put that tweet out.
When? Today?
Yesterday, he was talking about holding pharmaceutical companies accountable for vaccine injuries and stuff like that. So if he's starting to change, that's why I went to that point, was because I read a thing about how he was bringing up vaccine pharmaceutical companies for liability. And if he got hurt by one, and there's demonstrative proof that, this happened, then I would definitely expect something like that coming.
Man,
because it's going to come out sooner or later. If he's where I think he is, it's going to come out sooner or later. And so that's, again, I'm not trying to start anything. This is just one of those things that I have not seen anybody tie this to. And every single time that I see him practice venous insufficiency issues or blood vessel issues or cardiac issues, I always ask them, did you get vaccinated? And when they did, it's a completely different story.
Oh, you know what? I'm doing some looking here, and I've seen some people claim that Trump has turned against Operation Warp Speed, which I thought was always going to be a problem since he was the guy behind it. He was the guy who gave us the vaccine. He would be real reluctant to criticize it or look into it or tell the truth about it or admit that there's some negative consequences to it. But if he is being effective negatively, that looks like it's changing his mind. That's not good for him, and that's not good, on a human being level. But for the fact that we may now actually have both sides that want to get to the bottom of this story, that's a little optimism comes with that news. What else, Matt? What else do I not know from the point of view of a doctor?
The only other thing is that where the bruise is on the hand, it could 100% be because he banged it on something or because someone shook his hand. I'm not saying those are not 100% plausible, but when I first saw it looked like a vein was blown out from doing an IV. So that was the first thing that I thought, so that was the only other thing that I thought of.
But then what's he getting an IV for?
Well, there's lots of reasons to get IVs. If I was in charge of his care, he'd be getting stem cell IVs. So that's going to help the lungs, it'll help the blood vessels, it'll help everything. So that's what I would be doing with him. But I don't know exactly what his care is and what they're doing with him.
Yeah, well, bro, I haven't had an IV since I broke my arm when I was 7 years old. So I am very ignorant of the medical system. Thank you very much. Dr. Matt Chalmers, how do they find your great work online?
Pillarsofwellness.com is the easiest way to find us.
And
or
aren't
Dr. Chalmers 1 on social.
And where are you located? You're over here off like Greenville or something?
Oh, I'm in Frisco.
Frisco,
Texas.
Right. I must be thinking of my other doctor friend. All right, Dr. Matt Chalmers, I appreciate it. Thanks for clearing up some of that, the rumor mill on Donald Trump's health. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, good stuff. Coming up next on the James Show, Ding Dong Ditch gets another kid killed in Texas. This one, only 11 years old. That story's next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, football fans. Kind of a tough start for your Longhorns, wasn't it? And then we got this weekend. The Cowboys are going to be taking on the Eagles, and their chances are looking pretty bleak. And if we get off to a slow start, Prize Picks may be the only way you enjoy this football season. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. It's just America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. That's all. And you can play with millions of your friends, but you don't compete against them. It's just you going through statistics on some of your favorite football players on your favorite teams, and you pick more or less. Saquon Barkley this weekend, 1 rushing touchdown. Will he get more or less? And if you feel confident about that, you add it to your lineup. And then you look at, hey, Joe Burrow, 2.5 passing touchdowns. Will he get more or less? And then, boom, you already have 2 guys there. That's all you need to make a lineup. You can go up to 6 people, and you can go up to 2,000 times your money if you get it right. And you don't have to get them all right. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. And that's super helpful for me last year. We'll see about it this year. But if you're new to Prize Picks, I got a little bonus action for you. If you download the app today and use code WBAP, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WBAP to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And a story that sounds familiar because it is familiar. Another kid was shot playing Ding Dong Ditch. And this is a TikTok trend where kids film themselves going up, and some of them knock on the door, and I've watched a few of these. Most of them kick the crap out of the door, which, I mean, it's a distinction that counts because, you know, if someone just comes up and knocks on your door, not so scary, right? But boom, boom, boom. This is not what normal people do. When your mom comes to visit, when your neighbor comes to visit, when your girlfriend comes to visit, when your kids' friends come to visit, it's normal knocks, maybe the doorbell, not a kick. So if you're going to, you know, do something that sounds serious, it's not too crazy to expect a serious reaction. Now, whipping out a gun and shooting a 11-year-old in the back while he's running away, yeah, that's an overreaction. I'm not defending what he did. He's absolutely in the wrong here. But it happened about 3 weeks ago in Frisco, where some guys beat on a door and the dude came out and he squeezed off some rounds and shot their car 3 times. He's facing felony aggravated assault charges. This one just happened last week, or Saturday, in Houston. 11-year-old goes up, he has his friends recording him, kicks the crap out of the door, runs away. He gets shot, taken to the hospital, dies. Now, unfortunately, we're in the weird situation where what do you do with the guy that did the shooting there? He was detained, he was questioned, he was released, but so far, no arrests have been made. The investigation is ongoing. He's probably, I assume he's going to catch some charges, but, you know, if we have the Castle Doctrine and he felt like he was being threatened and, you know, is there a legal middle ground here? I don't know. That sounds like quite a bit of, as pro-gun as I am, I don't know if you can make an excuse for shooting someone who rang your doorbell and then ran off. We have some other stories, and these things make national news because they make guns look scary. So you're going to hear about all of these. But in May of this year, a Virginia man was charged with murder for shooting an 18-year-old who was rung his doorbell. There was a story about a guy who was shooting through the door at the pranksters. And then there was a guy a couple of years ago in California. He was convicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder for killing 3 teenage boys. And he didn't shoot them. He chased them down in his car and rammed them after they rang his doorbell as a prank. But Ding Dong Ditch, getting people killed out there. Ding Dong Ditch, it's annoying. You shouldn't do it. But it's not a death sentence. It's not that bad. Can we all just calm down a little bit? I don't know. Are these people doing this in terrible neighborhoods where violence is common, or people have a right to feel threatened? Because Frisco, Doesn't sound very dangerous to me. I don't know all the scenarios around here, but this is a tough one because 11 years old. Man, you got to think that guy's got to go to jail for something. There's no way an 11-year-old running away can make you feel threatened. And then you had to shoot him multiple times. I'll be glad when this trend's over. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Because the only question I have left is really this guy, does he deserve to be charged with a crime? I mean, I think so, but he hasn't been arrested. No charges have befallen him yet. So this is a weird gray area. And I'm not a guy who delights living and wallowing around in gray areas. I like solid, yes, no, maybe so, doesn't work for me. I really wish a lot of people would follow up on their threats to leave the country when, the other person gets elected. Because, you saw this when Trump got elected in 2016. You saw the threats in 2020. And, of course, it happened to get in 2024. But make no mistake, people were saying the same thing about George Bush. People were saying the same thing about Ronald Reagan. People were saying... So it's nothing new. It's just a common trope. Just to try and, number one, paint a picture of how terrible the other person is. Someone from the other party got in charge of this country. Things would be so bad I'd have to leave. And the other thing, it kind of makes a story about them, which, Hollywood people love. Oh, I'd have to go to another country. I wouldn't be safe here. Oh, you'd be fine. Shut up. But wouldn't it be fun if when the people that actually said it did it? Wouldn't that be great? Because we could see where they would all go, and we could see how their experience measures up, and we could see if they're going to come back, and why would you come back? I thought this place was terrible. Go ahead, go. Where are you going? You going to go to Uganda? Is that where you're going to go? You going to go to Haiti? Suriname? Where are you going? Oh, you're going to a Western European, white-dominated country, first world country. Oh, how brave. How stunning. Because the crazy part is most of these people can afford it. Why aren't you going? Why are you lying to yourself? And so Jeff Dye, a comedian that I am starting to really love here, he was on the Greg Gutfeld show, and he addressed the story because the latest liberal to leave the country, Robin Wright, she was Princess Buttercup in Princess Bride. She was Jenny in Forrest Gump. She was Claire Underwood in House of Cards and probably other things. But this is his response. Thought it was perfect.
It's such a tired thing to be like, if so-and-so wins, I'm fleeing. It's like my 5-year-old niece, packing a little suitcase and being like, I'm running away. They never do. George Lopez, Barbara Streisand, Lady Gaga, Rob Reiner, Cher, Ellen and Portia, American Ferrera, Amy Schumer, Sharon Stone, Bryan Cranston, and I have 100, all threatened to leave the country if Donald Trump won. None of them did it.
Thought that was kind of perfect. So, yeah, leave the country. Let us know how it goes. And I don't say that to be mean to these people. What if these people left and they spent a significant amount of time in another country and they were like, you know what? America's not so bad. America may be the best country in the world. This stinks. I imagine the Europeans, even the Western Europeans, would have a better standard of living than we do. They don't. They have smaller houses. Public transportation isn't so great. I don't like riding the stinky train with all these random people, and I got to carry all my crap everywhere. I like having a car. I like having a big car. I like having a big truck. I like the wide open spaces. I like the freedoms. No, go, leave the country. Please, leave the country. Experience another one, and then come back and try and lecture us on how terrible this place is. One of the great things I want to do for my kids, Miss Parker has some family that lives in Mexico. Hi, Miss Parker. Well, they don't just live in Mexico; they're Mexican. And when we've gone down to the town's called Merida, and we stayed for a week, and this was 7 years ago, because some cousin was getting married, and we were invited, and this was before COVID, so traveling wasn't a big deal. And we got to leave the kids behind and just come down to do a family thing. And I actually lived there for a little over a week, and I got to see what the differences were. And I'll tell you, I could not wait to get back. We are doing so good in America. Now, there's things we could be doing better. There's things that Mexico was doing better, but there was more things that Mexico wasn't doing as well. And so I want my children to experience that. I don't want them to just love America because they were taught that. I don't want them to just love America because that's what they saw in movies and country songs and the flag that's hanging off of someone's truck. I want them to love America because they've seen what the alternatives are. And I'm not a well-traveled man. I mean, that's the only other country I've really been to. I went on a cruise where I touched Guatemala and Belize. But, for my friends that actually travel, they talk about getting off an airplane. I think I have an old roommate who's in Mongolia right now. And he'll be the first one to tell you. He's like, man, you get off the plane and you start going through life and you're like, this is your country? This is how you people live? Oh, my God. That's tough, y'all. That's tough. But he knows he gets to come back whenever he wants. We're going to end the show today with a new feat. I'm probably going to do this with a little more time on tomorrow's show, but I got a few emails, people being, did you see this? Did you see this? Yes, I saw. Jasmine Crockett unlocked a new accent.
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
All right, in today's edition of What the Heck Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time, for your frame of reference, this is a clip that we use to show you what Jasmine Crockett sounded like when she first got into office, when she was first elected as a state representative here in the district I'm sitting in now. I'm in Jasmine Crockett's district. This is what she sounded like, just a few years ago.
First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. No one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress.
Yeah, sounds like a nice, sweet lady. Sounds like a girl you probably went to school with, maybe a coworker, just kind of normal. Nothing crazy, nothing too extravagant or ghetto or, vulgar. This was Jasmine Crockett this weekend. I think it's a new season of Fortnite. She got the battle pass and she unlocked a new accent. Check this out. This is going to be worse than you think.
Maybe because these people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty.
The wives is being messy. Did she forget how to conjugate her be verbs? Is that what she did? Or does she just pretend to not know how to conjugate her be verbs when she's in front of certain people because she thinks that would appeal to them? And if that is the case, if she's in front of a group of people and she's like, well, these people will appreciate bad grammar. In fact, they won't look down on bad grammar. It will be a source of authenticity and street cred for me. And on top of that, these people are stupid enough to believe that this is how I really talk. It's not just a little thing where you're code switching depending on what situation you're in. I realize you don't talk to your buddies at the bar the same way you talk to the guy across the desk at a job interview. Totally understandable. But this comes with a big, fat insult. She thinks you're low class. She thinks you don't know how to conjugate your verbs and you like people who don't know how to conjugate your verbs. And she just wallows in just chosen performative ignorance. And she thinks you're too stupid to notice. Here's the funny part. It's working. She's not wrong. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. If you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast, WBAP.com, WBAP app. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.